leadership. I think they went through like 5 or 6 presidents. Right, this was after the collapse of their IMF supported economic policies. And I was surprised because they are democratic and they had enough years of democracy, they elected a new leadership. They didn't have the military take over. They didn't go into chaos. And in fact, the Argentine unions, the old Peronista unions, actually played a positive role in preserving social stability. So you can see that you can go out in the world and you say, well, okay, there are some things that can help, but China doesn't want to go democracy, and they don't want to go to free trade unions, so they're trying some other things. Yes, sir.
I was wondering how you respond to the libertarian argument that, the first part of your talk is dedicated to show how there is a market for standards. But then, like an economic libertarian might say, well, then why does the state need to be involved at all? Why do you need law, the interference of law at all? So consumers will, naturally gravitate to producers that have fair practices.
Right. No, well, I'm very, very, sensitive to that claim, because the pressures that come from us are strictly consumer-based pressures. I mean, that is the buying thing. I think it's great power to that. Now, why countries, let's phrase it this way. Countries pass laws in order to have an efficient, they pass laws for various reasons, but from an economics point of view, it's to have run efficient markets. So they have bankruptcy laws on companies. We have a different one than the Europeans have. They have laws protecting private property. I see, my answer to a libertarian would be, I see nothing different in principle between laws that protect labor as those that protect capital. If we didn't have the limited liability, which is a strange concept, of corporations, we wouldn't have corporations. Corporations have turned out to be a very wonderful invention of, otherwise we'd have much smaller operations and we would lose all the economies of scale. But we legally set that up. The markets would never have had corporations without legal things. And so when we talk about labor rules and labor laws, I view them very similarly. And obviously, you always would prefer to have everything done by the free, without government stepping in. But that's not the way the societies operate. And if you're going to say we shouldn't do labor rules, then I would say, well, then you also should say we shouldn't do capitalist rules. And then we know we would be in a terrible state without, without this. And there's just no evidence the labor rules do anything negative towards efficiency. They still may bother you if you're a libertarian. Gee, I want to be allowed to discriminate. Why can't I? Let the market punish me. Okay, but you've got other things. Your money's safe in the bank because the federal government has provides safety in the bank things and so on. So it's just another set of rules that we operate. Yes, sir.
China's environment is devastated by all this manufacturing going there, and it's killing people, thousands of people every year in China. And how do you see that in your interest? Because this model of endless growth and productivity is not really sustainable no matter where these companies are. And I'm also really concerned about any accountability here, because they can't enforce environmental regulations over there. How will they be enforcing these improved labor standards, even if they say they're happy?
No, I mean, that is clearly the problem, is how are you going to get some enforcement in this situation? Hopefully, the global outside groups will help inside groups. There certainly are environmental groups inside China. They're probably very weak. But they connect up with us through the global thing. We give resources to them, and that can strengthen them. I don't think any of this is going to deal with what is the big issue that you're worried about. And we can't tell them, you, by the way, you can't grow because, they are, whatever it is, 20% of our GDP per capita, and you can't say stay poor because we don't want you polluting. Yeah, that's right. But that's what you just said. That gives what to me is the I think is the answer, if there is an answer. we should be specializing and doing a lot of R&D and a lot of things on ways to produce things and ways to reduce the pollution things, and then we should be selling that stuff to China. We should be specializing as a nation in the non-polluting technologies, and if I were the, I don't know, President of the United States or something or other, and I had a spare, I don't know, $170 billion lying around from a war, I would put a chunk of that money into this university, many other universities, private companies, into a massive sort of, R&D project to let's get the technologies down that really will let us do this. I think if you talk about people who complain about all the global climate contracts or agreements between countries, there's an element of truth that none of those things, even if we do everything, is going to really reverse a lot of problems. And the only thing I think we could do is some very serious mass new technology. And we certainly are not on a Manhattan, the A-bomb project saying, let's pour resources and let's see. And that I personally think that's also good for our trade, because we're not going to compete with China in producing regular manufactured goods. We got to produce something that they absolutely are not going to be producing. And then we could then say to them, hey, buy the U.S., whatever it is, because that's the anti-polluting things, et cetera. I wanted to go live for a year in Beijing, and my Chinese friends said, no, you can't come. And I said, why? They said, oh, the pollution's so bad that it'll be bad for your health. And I thought, well, I assumed that was the reason. It wasn't that some other reason that they didn't want me to come. Because for short trips, they're happy that I come. Yes, sir.
Setting the altruistic notion of empowered, workers as a good thing aside, it seems like there's a lot of economic evidence that a strong labor movement in industrialized nations is good economically, builds a strong middle class, consumer class, and it doesn't have the productivity downside. And yet we have some of the most regressive labor laws in industrialized nations here in this country, and we just, you just demonstrated that the American Chamber has this mission to derail labor standards. Where's the disconnect in the discussion, the social discussion between, if you will, the labor progressive community and the business community? It seems like there's a fit there someplace that we should be able to make.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is you get a much more moderate view from the business community in Europe. It's truly remarkable. You don't have anything like the far right people who want the world to be union free. It just doesn't happen in that discussion in Europe. And I think there are two things motivating the business community. That's really what you're asking. One is, which every economist finds appealing, it's profits. Unions are going to take money and put it in the hands of workers, and that's going to be out of the hands of the executives and out of the hands of the shareholders. And that clearly motivates. It's very motivating. The other part is, and economists don't like this particular part. And I don't like it. I don't understand it. Is there does seem to be some real what's the right word? Ideology of power control. I'm not sure where that came from. Disrespect for normal citizenry, which again you don't see, throughout the whole world. So, it's not uniform kind of view. In the European setting, the union wages generally become the wages in the entire sector or country, so they don't really lose profits from it, so they don't have to fight against the union. My company's unionized. I have the health care. Well, health care in Europe is covered. I've got the pension plan. I've got the higher wages. And the union will have no negative productivity things. So the only debate we have in economics now, at least, is there a positive